So Terry Afram, you are an investor who's investing in West Africa, right?
That's correct.
So what do you invest in and why?
Yes. Yes. So basically, especially agriculture. Obviously, there's a few industries that are very important for economic development in Africa. Maybe to start from the start, I'm Ghanaian, but I was born and raised in Amsterdam, so I'm part of the diaspora.
Okay.
Used to work at Goldman Sachs in London, Johannesburg, then moved back to Ghana, ran a tech firm, IPO'd a tech firm in New York, and then started Bridge Partners, right? So that's a B2B play, getting corporate and institutional investors to invest in Africa. But what we're focused on right now is diaspora investments, right? So we get the diaspora to invest, restructuring vehicles to allow the diaspora, a huge market, 160 million people, to invest in Africa at the moment. And already there's remittances of over 100 billion USD that are being remitted on an annual basis. So, but those are remittances. Remittances are not as effective as investments. So those are the structures and vehicles that we're creating right now.
And where do you see the biggest opportunity for investment right now in West Africa?
Definitely food. Definitely food. Food and definitely also real estate. Right, there's a huge housing deficit. We have the fastest growing population and urbanizing population. We definitely need more units, but we definitely also need more food. Right, so these are two particularly interesting investment destinations, I believe: food and agriculture, and real estate.
And so what do you hear from some investors here in the West as some of the biggest obstacles they see to investing in Africa, and how can we change that?
Yeah, definitely transparency. Definitely transparency. There's quite a this discrepancy between the actual risk and the risk perception. So there's quite some work to be done on that side to understand or to make sure.
But what is the discrepancy?
So on this side, the risk perception is so much higher than it actually is on the ground, right? So that comes with a lot of engagement and making sure that we connect properly. And I believe once that is done, we'll have a better view of what the actual risk perceptions are, and actually get these flows going in a much more efficient way than they are right now.
And how instrumental are conferences like this in changing that risk perception?
More than instrumental. I mean, these are the platforms where you have both the public sector and the private sector represented. So I believe it doesn't get better than these kinds of platforms, and having these conversations in the middle of arguably the most important city in the world is definitely priceless.
So what would you like to see happen between now and the next Gabi conference next year, so that we can create these kind of ideas into action?
Yeah. No, good question, definitely. We have to build on the momentum. Of course, I'm at many conferences, and indeed, some of these conferences are just conferences for conference sake, right? Conversations. But it would be good to see and agree on a few actual action points and see how we indeed, in a combination of both the public and private sector, get to actualizing these and actually hold each other accountable to these as well. So if there's some framework that allows for such, I think it would be actually very helpful.
The accountability piece is big, and I'm glad you brought that up. So my last question for you: what is it, as an African who's also lived outside, what is it about Africa that makes it unstoppable?
It's people. It's vibrant and creative people. It's vibrant, resilient, and creative people, definitely. Africans, in my opinion, of course I'm biased, but are one of the strongest, one of the most inspiring people on earth. There's quite a few things that have gone on in the past in Africa. However, I think one of the things that you would always allocate to, I guess, a word wrap around the word African is that the African people are vibrant and very happy, right? Happy, very positive, always have a positive outlook. So I guess the vibrancy and the creativity is that which will allow Africa to indeed be unstoppable.
Great. My very last question for you. So you're an investor. As an investor, if you were advising someone about the hottest investment to make in Africa right now, what would it be? Definitely
into food. Yeah, food processing. We have a huge population growth. At this moment, 1.3 billion people. It's going to double by 2050. All these people need to be fed. And then we have, obviously we have a comparative advantage on a global scale. 60% of the world's arable land is in Africa. 1 + 1 is 3 in this case. So yes, food processing.
Wonderful. Thank you so much.
Thank you too.